Well, it's Christmas Eve and it feels weird because I'm coming from work. I've just done a short 4-hour shift, you know, nothing too bad. And it felt good to do that. It felt good to wish everyone a happy holiday season for the umpteenth time, but it's always nice to do that. It's nice to have a bit of a team spirit going on. I do like that about this time of year. I do also find this time of year difficult in regards to mental well-being. I always find that the whole Christmas and New Year period is somewhat of a transition into a new year, and we reflect on the previous year, and no matter how good or bad it always drives this point home that hey, it's another year, and in our case it's not just another year, it's another decade, and that's kind of crazy. I think I should have a look into what has happened, all the amazing things that have happened during this year, because I can't believe how quickly it was over. But that's not really what I wanted to talk about. I wanted to first of all wish you all happy holidays. That's very important. Thank you so much for all the well wishes I have so far received, and maybe this video is a little bit late, but hey, better late than never. Especially because it is Christmas Eve now by the time I edit it and put it on YouTube, and then hopefully it's not going to be Boxing Day. Because the thing is, in Europe the 24th is actually the bigger day than the 25th. So in Commonwealth countries and in the US the 25th is the big day, and in Europe it isn't the case. In most of Europe and in parts of the Caribbean, the 24th, Christmas Eve, is actually the big day. So in Germany I remember we had that was almost a holiday, kind of a part holiday. After 3-4 o'clock in the afternoon nothing's happening anymore, and then Christmas Day and Christmas Eve are Christmas Day and Boxing Day, the 26th, they are off, which is cool, and it's kind of a 3-day holiday that you get there usually. Whereas in the US and also in the UK, the 25th is the big day, and you usually have some time off there, but the 24th is kind of a regular day, and the 26th is also a regular day. In fact, it's a big retail day, because then I believe that the Christmas sales or whatever, some kind of sales thing is starting, and people are coming to grab bargains and all this. Is all very much about consumerism, and it's not quite the same in Europe. So today on the 24th is the big day for us, and we come together with our families and we chill on the 25th. Whereas in the Commonwealth and the UK and in the US, it's all about the 25th. This is when we come together. And of course in the morning on the 25th we go and open our presents, because during the night Santa's come and put them out and all that. Whereas in Europe it was different. In Europe you get them in the evening of the 24th. Thank you so much, Nissan. It's very nice of you to let me cross the road there. Merry Christmas to you too. That's another thing about the holidays. Merry Christmas really narrows it down to one religion, whereas Happy Holidays is much more widespread greeting to everyone who's celebrating things like Hanukkah and Kwanzaa and all these other celebrations that are going on. Christmas isn't the only one. So it's funny, my colleague Avi, who is working for a similar company than I do, he is working for Shipt instead of Instacart. I work for Instacart. I kind of currently, end of 2019, they peacefully coexist. I'm sure one day one of them will buy the other, or third party is going to buy both of them, or whatever. And he was saying there's this customer of his from Maryland, and he moved down here to Miami Beach, and he didn't quite understand why we all say Happy Holidays here rather than Merry Christmas. Isn't it Christmas? It's, Merry Christmas, that's what it's supposed to be. And then he found out, well, there's just not one religion predominant here. There's so many religions, and to just say have a happy insert celebration here, we just say Happy Holidays, which is nice. I like that. I really like that. So new year, new beginnings. Perhaps we'll talk about that another time. Right now I just wanted to talk about something that is more or less the opposite. I've put a lid on something that used to be, thank you, that used to be something that I used to run, which is called my iOS Dev Diary. And it used to be an incredibly popular website for iOS development tips. So Apple's Xcode and how to make apps run for iOS and all that. It used to be amazing successful. It was more like a side project. I was into iOS development at the time. In about 2013, that's when that all started. I got into it about 2011, 2012, something like that. I believe 2011 were the beginnings of that. And I found things incredibly difficult, and there was literally no documentation on the internet. And I started writing little tips to my future self, like I do with my 3D tips. I did exactly the same for iOS, and that became, I did it on a dummy domain, pinkstone.co.uk, which is one I had lying around that wasn't doing much, and I thought I'm going to use it for that. So it never had a proper title or anything. I just used to call it the iOS Dev Diary, and I had literally no expectations from this thing at all. And I just went and wrote my little tips. Hey, if you want to do this and that, and you do this little code example, case closed. And it got to a point where I had to buy a dedicated server for that, because there was so much traffic on this thing that I couldn't read my own articles anymore. And that of course happened because so many people found the site via Google and found it extremely helpful, incredibly helpful. I got so many helpful comments on it, and the traffic and the links were just unbelievable, that I thought, well, I need to find a way to offset the hosting costs and cash in on this. This is kind of the first time I did something along the lines of crowdfunding, and many of the articles got longer and more elaborate, and they were good, they were powerful. Some were several parts long. This is also the time when I started YouTube screencasts more or less seriously, and it was very successful. Some of the videos have literally, I think one of my iOS videos has over 100,000 views on YouTube, which is crazy stuff, and that's not even a good one. And some of these things I do take time and explain things in like 5 or 6 part courses, how to do, I don't know, iPad popovers, or how to create in-app purchases, and so it's very in-depth stuff. But back in the day you only really had lynda.com, and that was it really. Apple's own documentation was terrible, and luckily it all, you know, got a bit better over the years. But you know, I'm out of it now. I'm out of the game. I'm just telling you this because this was, you know, it's kind of a nice little Christmas story there. So in order to fund the server, I thought, well, maybe I'll create some courses and some articles that I'll just explain what it's about, and then the article cuts off and it says, go here to sign up and pay me an annual membership for the website. There was 3 memberships I had. Like, there was a daily one, there was an annual one, and there was a lifetime one. And they were priced at about $5, $15, and $30 or something, $40, something along those lines. And I did that as a little experiment. As the traffic on the site increased, the sign-ups increased. It's unbelievable. I still have the stats, and it's very exciting to see how many people have signed up in such a short amount of time, over about a year or so. So it ran between 2013 and about 2015, round about the time when I got diagnosed with cancer. That's when I worried much less about iOS development, because I just couldn't do that anymore. There was just more pressing matters that I had to attend to, and so then that's how I parted with iOS development. But it was from 2013, so I started the site in 2011, 2012, turned it into a pay site in 2013, and then it kind of fizzled out around 2015 because I no longer created content for it. But interestingly, I looked at the stats this morning, and I had a look at how much money that site earned me, and believe it or not, it was close to $3,000 in 2 years. That was very exciting for site income, $2,800 something dollars, and that is just from the website. So that's not including the revenue on YouTube that I would have made during that time, which I don't remember what it was. But yes, that's what happened, and it was great. It was fantastic. It was the first time that I thought, wow, this crowdfunding thing is seriously working out well. Thank you guys. Happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
And so what happened then was that over the years I made less and less content for the site, and eventually decided I'm gonna make the site a free website. So now I've made all that used to be paid for content is now freely available, freely accessible for everyone, including those unlisted YouTube videos. They are still on my channel, and they still contain the same info, even though the workflow has drastically changed that Apple want us to adhere to now. So it's not quite that relevant anymore, but still it's a website that still draws in quite a crowd. Like 600-700 views every day is cool. So there's a bit of advertising revenue coming in there from that site still. But because I'm no longer committed to it, I thought I wanted to communicate that to visitors, and I made a post this morning that said mothball alert. And even though I had every so often wrote content there, it's just not something I keep up anymore, and I just wanted people to know about that. And I think mentally I wanted to draw a line underneath that project for me, that I could say, hey, this was good, this was awesome, I had a great time. For one reason or another, it's no longer is something I update, and please don't hope for new content, that sort of thing. And I did that this morning on the kind of a spur of a moment, and it felt very good. It felt good to not just start another project, but also to shut down another one. So as I mentally dig deeper into the Creative Minds project, it was good to close one project officially down, and that's the iOS Dev Diary. That's had its day. I've not written anything meaningful there for a couple of years. I'm no longer, as of I think October this year, I'm no longer an Apple developer. It used to be $99 to do that, to have your apps on the App Store, but I stopped doing that. My apps have now gone away, kind of silently been discontinued, if you will. And it's okay, because they haven't been updated in a year or two anyway, and it's just, it's all too complicated. I'm out of it for too long, and it's not something that I like doing still. So, while I do enjoy the odd coding challenge, it is very difficult to keep up with how Apple teaches something that next year you have to relearn. It's not very much focused on being able to be creative. That is not something that Apple let you do. You gotta play by Apple's rules, and it's all a bit strict. So I don't want to whinge about it. It's, I wanted to highlight how positive that experience really was for me, and remember the site by what it was and what it meant for me, which was good times and a total surprising amount of positive feedback. I think that was the first time that I experienced the fact that people actually like what I do on YouTube there, on the way I explain things. It's kind of exactly the way I explain things in 3D, but the audience was just much bigger. And it's just one of those things. It really depends on what the subject matter is. Some people explain something so well, other people do it so extremely unwell, and I never knew that was something I could do. I always took notes for me and made videos just for my own benefit, that I could learn from it when in 6 months' time I had forgotten how to do something. It's quite nice that I explain to myself, hey, these are the things that you need to do. And so essentially I made videos and wrote articles for the audience of one, which was literally me, and it worked really well. But at the same time, it also taught me that this is exactly what people want to read. They don't want to read or watch. They don't really want to see somebody who pretends to be an expert. I'm not literally on any subject, and I think that comes across. But when I have figured something out, it's actually very beneficial for me to take a note, so that I can figure it out again when the next time comes around. Yeah, so that's just and it's those are the thoughts I have when I think about the iOS Dev Diary. And at the same time, it's good and healthy to close it down and say, hey, that's had its purpose. $3,000, that was literally, I believe, 3 iPhones in total, or 1 iPad and 2 iPhones. I think that's how we financed it, because it allowed me. I remember this one moment when I had the iPhone 6s came out, and this is exactly the phone that I still have. and it came out with this new thing, the 3D touch, I believe they called it. When you hard press on the screen, it kind of does a different function. And there was nobody who had explained this as well as I did, and it was one of my last large paywall articles, and it has a very popular GitHub repository. It's got over 100 likes on it, which is phenomenal for a coding repository, and people liked it. That's nice. So I take that away from it, and at the same time, it's good to officially close this thing down and make a mental note about that this was a good time. I had this, but now it's kind of over. That's my Christmas story, really. That's all I wanted to tell you. Now I'm going home. I'm going to celebrate with some neighbors and with my wife, of course. We're going to have a ribeye roast. Peter's going to cook a ribeye roast. It's going to be nice. And I bought a 6-pack of non-alcoholic beer, so that's going to be awesome. Anyway, my friends, there'll be more live streaming, of course, in the new year, perhaps even before the year is out. We need to get that title sequence for Creative Minds sorted. Very important. I have more ideas on how to do that. I think I may use both DAS and Blender to do this, but we'll do some experiments and see how that goes. Have a wonderful time until I see you the next time. Take care. Bye bye.